Hey guys, I want to do a video today about like safety and the safest places to live in the Philippines. And there's a lot to take into consideration when you move here to the Philippines for a lot of different reasons. Um, it's you got the activities that go on in Mindanao, like with the Muslim areas. Um, you have terrorist issues, NPA, and you have earthquakes. Okay, so it's all to be taken into consideration. Safety as far as crime, stuff like that. One thing I gotta say is I never feel unsafe traveling in the Philippines. Okay, I'm gonna say that in Luzon, I always feel safe, and in many of the other islands, there's 7,200 islands here, um, all different sizes and shapes. And one thing I gotta say is everybody I talk to, even the guys in Mindanao, say, Steve, for the most part, it's safe here, and I would say that that's probably true in most cases. As you get closer, there's like little small pockets where it's dangerous. There's places in Palawan that are unsafe. There's places in Mindanao. I'm sure there's even places in Luzon where it's not really that safe. There's been kidnappings. It's not very often. It usually happens in Mindanao or south of here. The southern half of the Philippines is where most of the things happen. So what would I say? I'd say, I'd be careful going to most of those islands. Palawan has had its issues. Some of the other islands have had their issues. And some of it's just like a one-time thing that it happened there. Somebody showed up there, they did something, and then they left. So when you choose an an island here, what I would say is, make sure you do your research. There's maps that show where where there's terrorists and NPA and Abu Sayyaf and all that stuff. So anywhere around Manila, you're pretty much safe. Anywhere in Luzon, you're pretty much safe, I would say. But there are some small pockets, and that's the thing. There are small pockets. There's guys that moved to Naga City. They say they love it down there. They think it's great. There's guys that moved to Bohol. They think it's great. But beyond the terrorist thing, there's also earthquakes, volcanoes, things like that. Tsunamis. Some areas are tsunami prone because of earthquakes in the area. Okay, and they've had small tsunamis here. They've had in the past. I didn't study up too much about the tsunami issue because I live 400 feet up, so I don't worry too much about that. Earthquakes. Before you move here, be sure to look at an earthquake map to see where the faults are, okay? And to find out where, like, volcanoes and that things like that are too. And wherever there's a volcano, you get earthquakes, and plus you get the volcano erupting too. But also, wherever there's a fault line, you're probably going to have problems here in the Philippines. There's always earthquakes here, always. And some areas are worse than others. We get our shakers here, in Cavite. I live in Tracy Martirez. We have our shakes here, and they're not too bad. We have some cracks in the wall. I live in a brand new place, and we probably got like about 7 new cracks in the walls, probably from they're minor cracking, but it was from the big shaker that we had in Manila not too long ago. So I mean, if we get a big one in Manila, we're probably going to have some problems here and feel it here a little bit, at least somewhat. And it might do some damage too. But I mean, do you want to live in a high-rise building in a, earthquake-prone area? No, you absolutely do not. Building codes here are different, and some of those building codes are just plain not safe. You're better off living in a one-story building, a building that's flat on the ground with cement underneath it, for safety. Things like that. So when you pick a place to live here, don't go on the beauty of the island and say, well, I want to move here because it's really beautiful. Because that island might be, mostly, like an island where there's a lot of problems. It could have a lot of issues. You don't know, and make sure you look, you talk to other people there and find out. And you go on some of those expat, pages, because there's lots of expat pages out there, groups and stuff like that you can go on there and talk to these people and say, hey, listen, what's going on? And don't listen to everybody out there, because there's a lot of expats out there that sitting behind, they sit in a bar every day. I mean, I'm just being honest. They sit in a bar every day, 7 days a week, 24/7, and they'll tell you what you want to hear. They'll tell you, oh, it sucks here, it's terrible. And it might be a great place to live, because a lot of expats here, I don't know why, because this is their host country, but they talk about how much it sucks and how awful it is, and it really isn't that bad here. It's really pretty decent. It's what you make of it. If you come over here expecting the streets to be paved with gold, they're not paved with gold. I mean, they're paved with poverty, okay? You can live here super cheap. You can live very well on the dollar, and we've lost a little bit of our buying power here, about 4% over the past month, I think, or something like that, because we're getting 52-1 now. We're getting about 50-1. So I mean, you lost a little bit of your buying power over here. But anyway, I just want to cover about that earthquake issue. The earthquake issue is pretty big here, because with like if you lived in Davao or Mindanao, okay, and Davao's supposedly a safe city. It's a safe town, okay? Now they got smashed with an earthquake, smashed. Okay, not just one, but probably like about 100, it seems like, within like a 2-week period or more, like aftershocks and stuff like that. So, I mean, would you want to live in Davao? Probably not, It's probably not a good place to choose. Is it cheap there? Yeah, I've heard it's pretty decent, pretty cheap there. But Cavite, safety-wise, I like it here, okay? Price-wise, it's to beat the band. It's probably one of the cheaper places to live in a nice home, a nice cement home, okay? If you want to live in something extravagant, go to Das Marinas, and you can get something still cheap there and get a 3-bedroom home, with a pool and a gated community for about 3-bedroom, probably about $200. Maybe a little bit, maybe a couple bucks more. A 2-bedroom there I saw for, it was like $140. Okay, $140 American. Okay, I pay $60, and you can look at some of my videos about that. And I have a 1-bedroom that was one bedroom was big enough that we could turn it into 2 bedrooms. Okay, so I mean that, and some people use their living room. They use the bed out there for like a day bed. So if you have a child or something, you can put the child out there, or you can put, if you have a maid, you can put the maid out there. Okay, so that's just a thought. You can also get this earthquake detectors. It's like some of them look like a smoke detector that I've seen online. And when it shakes, it'll wake you up at night. So it'll tell you, hey, get up, get out of the house. So if you do choose to live in those places, then I would not live in a cement house. I'd live in a hut or something like that. But I mean, your standards go down. So I choose to live in a decent house where I have cement, for several reasons. Because it's a house. If you live in a wooden house here, pretty much, I mean, that the termites are going to eat it up fairly quickly, and you're going to have a lot of problems. They have all kinds of problems with wood-eating insects here. So that's a big issue here. The other thing is, the China issue, okay? I just want to touch on that a little bit, because the China issue is an issue here. China seems to be making inroads all throughout the South Pacific. I'm not going to lie to you about that, okay? They've taken over, the Spratly Islands that belong to the Philippines. The Philippines just kind of turns a blind eye to it, because Obama turned a blind eye to it, okay? And he didn't go and help him when we had a treaty with him. And I blame that on the United States. When Trump took over, once the island's taken over, what can you do? You're not going to go in there with a nuclear weapon and nuke them or something and take them, hey, say, get off the island. and start World War III over a little tiny rock that's not even ours. I mean, we have a treaty with them, yes, but it's too late in the game now. So it's pretty much belongs to China now, and there's no way of getting it back. Do I think China's gonna take over here? China's already taken over like the Solomon Islands and a lot of other islands by giving them loans. Sri Lanka, a lot of African countries, giving them loans that they can't pay back. And then what happens when they default? They take a port. And with that port, they're allowed to bring in their own ships and Navy ships. And they use it as a military port. So, I mean, those are the things you got to worry about. I mean, we have a Chinese base right off the coast here, you know? So, I mean, if something happens here, they've already got a foothold in the Philippines if the United States tries to come back here and build bases, which is, I think they rewrote the Constitution or something like that in the Philippines now, that a base here cannot belong to another country. So, I mean, you know, they really don't want us here. They'll let us stay here and use their bases, but they will not let us have the base totally be ours. So, you know, who cares whether we own it or not, or it's ours or not? You know what I mean? It shouldn't really matter. If we're protecting them, they should, you know, I mean, it's just a matter of wording, you know, like, we're letting you stay here, or we're letting you have the base. And then I guess if they give us the base, we can build and do whatever we want. Whereas if they tell us, yeah, you can use our bases, then it's a lot different. So, but I mean, that's basically what you got to worry about, guys. As far as prices now, that's another thing that you have to think about when you live here is prices. If you live in Subic, you're going to pay big prices. And a lot of the guys up in Subic will tell you, oh, you can't live here for less than $1,500 a month or $2,000 a month or $2,500 a month. Yeah, yes, you can. Most definitely you can. And a lot of these guys say, well, you're going to live like an animal. You're going to be eating rice every day. You're going to have a toilet with no toilet seat, and you have to, you know, pour that, you know. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them, because those guys don't know what they're talking about, because they don't get around, they don't get off their bar stool much, you know, up in Subic. They really don't. And they don't know what they're talking about, because you can live here a lot cheaper, okay? I mean, I know guys that were living here on $300 bucks a month. I know some people that were living less than that, actually. You know, and there's people up in Vietnam doing the same thing. And if anybody tells you that, oh, that's a lie, you know, if you get sick, what's going to happen? Yeah, have some emergency money. You know, definitely have some emergency money. Have 10 grand in emergency money, or 5 grand, or more, even more. I would prefer more, actually, to be honest with you, to tell you that, unless you're going to buy insurance here. I pay $700 a year, right around there, give or take a few dollars, for insurance, okay, through Pacific Cross, which is the former Blue Cross Blue Shield of the Philippines, okay. So these are all things you have to think about when you move here. Your insurance, your security, stuff like that. Some people want a gated community. You know, that's another thing to think about. Do you want to live in a gated community? You know, is your house going to get broken into? You can buy you can buy alarm systems for really cheap through like Wish or Amazon or Lazada over here. You can install them yourself where an alarm goes off if somebody breaks in. I put deadbolts on all my doors and stuff like that. So, I mean, safety is what you make it. Okay, get to know your neighbors. You know, take care of your neighbors. Look out for your neighbors. Invite them over for dinner once in a while, so you get to know the people in your neighborhood, so that they look out for you and stuff like that. That way, people won't be breaking into your house and stuff. Make sure you got your windows are all, you know, windows that people can't break in through. Okay, you definitely want to have like the type of windows that nobody can climb through if they break a window and try to get in. Those are the other things. You want a deadbolt on your door. You want things like that. That's basically about it, guys. But definitely stay off fault lines in the Philippines. Okay, that's the big key here. Stay off the fault lines. Stay out of high crime areas if you're gonna move to a city. Move to like the more middle class to wealthier sections, or move in like a high rise or something like that. Like if you're gonna go to Cebu or something like that, they're expensive. You know, they're expensive in Cebu. It's Apartments are all different prices, but it's really expensive in Cebu. Cavite has the most veterans. I think that's what the Veterans Administration told us up in Manila. That Cavite province has the most veterans in it of all the Philippines. So that's something to think about for veterans also. Also, the thing about Cavite is if you guys are veterans, Cavite is the perfect place because and Tracy Materas especially, because you can hop on a bus and you can go all the way up to Manila and just jump in a cab and then you're at the VA. So it's cheap. It's really cheap. So just that's some things to take into consideration. If you are a veteran, you don't want to have to travel up from Mindanao or Palawan or Bohol or someplace like that. You probably want to move closer. And there's some beautiful places on the other side of Luzon, like Aurora and places like that, where it's really beautiful. It's secluded, but then you miss out on like McDonald's and Chowking and KFC. Places like that, Army, Navy, all those places. So, take all those things into consideration, what you're looking for. Write the things that you want on a piece of paper. If you want a good supermarket, you're going to have to live near at least a semi-small city or a small town that has like a SM type mall. So you have to live within a town or two away, so that you can travel there and you can get the foods that you want. Like if you want American foods and stuff like that, you're gonna want to live near a mall. Restaurants. If you want to go out on a date, or if you want to go shop, you like going shopping at the mall a lot. Those are the things you have to consider. So it's up to where you want to live, and safety wise, and food wise, all that has to be taken into consideration when you move here. So that's about it, guys. But remember, if you're already here and you haven't been here that long, just think about all those different things. Or if you're coming over here and you're not sure where to move, take all those things into consideration. Write down what you're looking for. You can always drop me a line too, and I can make some recommendations for you. If you're looking for really beautiful beaches and stuff like that, you may want to go south down by Naga City and stuff like that. There's some beautiful beaches down there, and they get hot springs down in that direction too. And all that should be considered. But all right, guys, I'm gonna have some more videos coming out soon. I'm working on a couple of other ones, and they should probably be out within the next day or two. Okay, thanks, guys. Be sure to subscribe.